Welcome into the Big Little Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Patrick Previty. That is Andrew Greig. NFL Week 3 is almost done. College football Week 4 is done. So we'll start with college football. We'll begin with Miami. They move up to number 2 in the AP poll, and they just got a win over Florida. Andrew, first thoughts on that game?
Yeah, so it was definitely not as exciting as a game as it was built up to be, but in general, as a Miami Hurricanes fan, you love to see like how that game was played out. The offense had it clicking for the first drive and then kind of just went dormant for a little while. They were able to move the ball, but not actually put up a ton of points on the board. And then from the Florida Gators perspective, that offense was just absolutely atrocious. DJ Lagway only had 61 passing yards on just barely over a 50% passing completion percentage. And then also that Florida team, besides one drive, could not put anything together just in general. So where do you go from here as a Florida Gators fan? And how long does Billy Napier last? Both questions that I feel like has to be asked at this point, especially because this is the part of the schedule that was supposed to be the start of the hard part of the schedule. Obviously, they lost to USF as well. But or at least LSU was the hard start of the hard part of the schedule. And then from there, they have a bunch of ranked opponents that they have to play. So the Florida Gators fans are low-key in shambles. And from a Miami Hurricanes fan perspective, it couldn't be going better. Carson Beck could look a little bit better, but besides that, the defense is very much improved, and there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, just a few interceptions there from Beck over the last handful of games, but still nitpicking, and I believe one or two of them weren't even his fault. So at the end of the day, he's looking really good. Shannon Dawson has the offense rolling. I totally think that both these coordinators could be future coaches in college football. Let me start with Florida. As you mentioned, yeah, their schedule is insane. I mean, they got Texas A&M, Texas, even whatever you think about them. Georgia on the way, Florida State all the way down the line. Ole Miss, I believe, at some point in the year as well. So good luck to them. DJ Lagway with 61 total yards. At least he didn't throw 5 interceptions this week, but his future is definitely in doubt. The way that this season could potentially turn out for him and his future NFL draft stock. Been a little bit of rumblings about him transferring potentially. I don't know if that would end up actually happening, but him losing his head coach, I definitely think is a real possibility now for sure. They're playing tough. The Florida defense is still really good, but yeah, Miami just was able to control that game even when Florida got their big touchdown drive and was able to bring it within 6. It felt like they just didn't have enough juice offensively to scare Miami at all. They just need to take care of business down the stretch, which they did, tacked on a couple of those touchdowns. 26-7 is how it ended. And I think that was more reflective of how this game actually went. I think it's awesome the way that Corey Heatherman and this entire, program has been able to redo this defense. I'll say this every single time we go on. Imagine this defense with Cam Ward. I don't even know where this team would have ended up being. But yeah, Reuben Bain getting the light Heisman buzz. This defensive line just in general, also with Akeem Mesidor, is just elite, I would say, as well. And they're going to have some serious buzz as far as maybe getting to number 1 eventually. I know Penn State and Oregon play, so potentially this number 2 ranking while Miami's on a bye could fade a little bit. They might go down to 3 if Penn State wins, but still, regardless, they have a chance to get it back in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and one thing that I've really liked through the first couple of weeks is that they really have proven like that the ranking is very much deserved. I feel like they've come into a couple of different games where you could look at these games as like just kind of games that the other team needs to win, and games that Miami could be a little bit just not as aggressive as they could have been. But I don't know. Like, this offense has looked really good. I think the running backfield has looked really good. Jordan Lyle didn't even play last game, and Mark Fletcher and Shamar Brown had great games, both of them over 80 yards. Mark Fletcher with 116 and a touchdown. The receiving core, it was raining, and Carson Beck just didn't have his greatest game of all time. But I mean, that receiving core is probably one of the best in the nation. CJ Daniels only had 4 catches for 16 yards, but he's a great player, transfer from LSU. And then the freshman, Malachi Tony, who I'm super high on. I think that he's just going to have an amazing career at So exciting to see that from the offensive side of the ball. And while this offense isn't as good as it was last year, they lose 6 of their top 7 receivers, and then also the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I still think that this offense is at the very least serviceable, if not very good, and that defense is much improved. It's 1,000 times better than it was last year. That is, like you mentioned, a testament to the coordinators that they brought in. And Heatherman has been really good for them coming out of Minnesota. And just in general, this Miami team looks really, really good. So although they might drop to 3 after the Penn State, if Penn State gets a win, or even if Oregon gets a win, I think this Miami team is almost a lock for the college football playoff, and definitely one of the best teams in college football so far.
I know it's a little bit off topic, but one thing I was doing, kind of researching a little bit as the season was coming up, was I didn't realize that Heatherman was a former QB and called plays. Like, he's got play calling resume. And I just think that that's really cool. Like, he's been on both sides of the ball. That's why I definitely think he's a guy I could see coaching a program. I mean, obviously recruiting and NIL's got a big thing about it, but whenever it comes to those interviews, can you do that? But I definitely think he can run a program potentially down the line. But yeah, you mentioned the run game before we move on. This Miami team had 184 yards on the ground. That's 4 yards per carry. That's really good. The Florida Gators had 29 carries for 80 yards, 2.8 per rush. So that difference just monumental in the way that they were able to control this game. And the Florida just didn't have enough. Now, whoever tells you that this game was close, or that they really they played Miami tough. I always want to give the other team credit, however which way things go. But people saying that this game was close, the score when it was 13-7 midway through the fourth, I'll give it to you. But I promise, watching this game, that Florida team could not move the ball whatsoever. That really killed any type of momentum that they potentially could have built. If the Florida team could move the ball, and this is a testament to Miami that they couldn't, maybe there was something. But that's a major if, because they couldn't do anything at all except for one drive.
They said on the broadcast like a million times that the score felt like much more than it was when it was only 13-0. And it was just, it felt like Miami was very much in control of that game the whole time. And it wasn't like the offense wasn't moving the ball. They were just stalling a little bit. So, and that'll happen. Like, the conditions were absolutely like they weren't the worst that I've ever seen, but they weren't great. And that's a testament to the run game as well, because they were able to average 4 yards a carry. They were able to almost get 200 yards on the ground. So that's not a terrible defensive line from Florida. And just in general, that Florida defense is not bad at all. So they got a lot of opportunities because of the fact that TJ Lagway had a ton of 3 and outs and just wasn't playing well at all. But I think that the Miami offense and the Miami defense are definitely clicking, and I want to see just not weather no weather in the Florida State game, and just see these two teams at their best, and we'll see what it chops up to being. But that game is definitely exciting for Miami coming off a bye in 2 weeks.